Welcome to Brainstorming. I'm Anna Tizard, award-winning dream punk and deeply weird fantasy author. And yes, that's me and my fiction that's deeply weird. Explore and imagine with me the most unexpected story ideas using the surrealist word game of Exquisite Corpse. Find out more and join in at annatizard.com. This is a storytelling challenge unlike anything you've tried before. Hello, imaginative people. I'm Anna Tizard, and this is episode 45 of Brainstorming, the first of 2024. Happy New Year to you. I hope that you've had a great break over the holidays and feel refreshed and ready to face the new year, although you don't have to see it that way if that's not helpful. If you'd prefer to take it one day at a time. After all, our birthdays are our own personal New Year's. So do we really need another one in the middle of winter? Why do we make decisions about the next 12 months in the middle of winter when we're cold and tired? Lots of people find it helpful to make New Year's resolutions, which is great. You have to do what works for you. But personally, I tend to keep them to a minimum. Very simple, and treat them as lightly as I can. Overall, I like to focus on an attitude of openness to new opportunities, because no matter what time of year it is, I can't predict which stories are going to really grab me enough to develop them into a bigger project, or if I might find or be approached by someone about an anthology that I could write for. And I'm not going to know about that on the 1st of January. Open to new opportunities and stories. That's certainly what the game of Exquisite Corpse gives us. Today, as per usual, I will play 3 rounds of Exquisite Corpse, pulling words at random, perhaps your words, from the socks of destiny to generate bizarre and intriguing writing prompts. And whatever you have planned for 2024, or if you're just trying to get through January for now, I hope to provide some fun distractions and entertainment in these unique journeys into storytelling, with some ideas to spark off your imagination. Bring forth the socks of destiny. And for those who haven't listened before or haven't played Exquisite Corpse before, it creates a bizarre sentence by mixing people's randomised words into a sentence that goes describing word noun, action, describing word noun. So I'm going to reach into the first sock for describing words and pull out our first word, which is from Joseph Clark. Witty. Okay, let's find a noun to go with witty. I have a word from Robin the Mail Lady. Psychopath. We have a witty psychopath on our hands. Okay, gonna go for an action. This is from Paul Thomas. Was unable to talk to. Okay, let's try for another describing word. This is from me. Drenched. Okay, let's just get one more noun and then have a look at the entire Exquisite Corpse. So this is from Sophie Longley. Passport. Okay, so we're just going to read the whole thing now. We have, for the first Exquisite Corpse of 2024, we have the witty psychopath was unable to talk to the drenched passport. That's pretty weird. Okay, so, we have a witty character who is unable to speak in this particular situation. A psychopath who likes to talk to passports. Rather than real people? I guess that could be true. Talking to pictures of people rather than real living people. That could be a thing. It's safe. A picture isn't going to talk back. It can't hurt your feelings. It's just an image. If it's a photo of someone you know or once knew, then you're kind of talking to a memory. But if it's a stranger, well, they're not even that. I imagine someone who's become a recluse, shut off from others. A terrible experience led to a terror of having to speak to people. And yet, our character became lonely. So what did he do? He collected pictures of people, and now he invents relationships that don't exist. Perhaps he cuts them out of a newspaper sometimes, if he finds an interesting or sympathetic looking face. But what might happen if he were to bump into them in real life afterwards? Might he develop an obsession? Stalk them? Believe in all the imaginary conversations he's had with them so far? And feel quite put out when they don't seem like that in real life? How psychopathic are we going to go with this storyline? Does he end up murdering them? But let's go back to the full Exquisite Corpse. The witty psychopath was unable to talk to the drenched passport. So there's something about a drenched passport that renders our character speechless. What could it be? And why? So why is the passport drenched? Is this because somebody has drowned or been murdered in the street and it's raining and they happen to have their passport on them and it got wet? Was it our psychopath character who murdered them, or is it someone else? Could you write a bit of a trick story out of this? I think you could. You could lead the reader to believe that this character is the murderer and who collects pictures of people, or collects people, and then keeps pictures of them, which he then talks to. But there's a twist, and it turns out that he isn't the murderer. Perhaps someone has spotted his unusual reclusive behaviour and has set him up. He's like a perfect target to throw blame onto. In fact, our character, if he has real sort of mental and behavioural issues, maybe he could come to believe that he is the murderer, or at least is tricked into believing that he's harmed them. And then that, in turn, would cause him to behave suspiciously when the police come along and ask questions. So he's got all of that going on, as well as the fact that, he's got a lot of pictures of people in his apartment. There are so many things you could do with this. It's rather weird. But I think it's time for another Exquisite Corpse. Okay. So our first describing word is from Ebenezer, vexed. Okay, don't hear that word very often. Interesting. And noun is from Edge O. Erin, sword swallower. Okay, this is going to get really weird. And for an action, Robin the Mail Lady was rendered unconscious by. Okay. Let's pick another word. This is from Paul Thomas. Snow blasted. Okay, and finally, the last noun, get right to the bottom of the sock. Someone who decides to call themselves Walk on Poo, and that's with an H at the end. For the benefit of audio. Traffic cop. Okay, so the whole Exquisite Corpse, we have the vexed sword swallower was rendered unconscious by the snow-blasted traffic cop. I think I'm going to need some green tea now. It must be brewed by now. Let's give that a stir. Okay. Right. Let's see. So the vexed sword swallower was rendered unconscious by the snow-blasted traffic cop. See, this is interesting because it doesn't specify how the sword swallower is rendered unconscious by the traffic cop, who is snow-blasted. And I'm thinking a sword swallower is going to be a hardy sort of a person. The only clue, if we are going to treat this as a clue and not just a detail, is that the traffic cop is snow-blasted. So imagine a traffic cop is having a rough sort of day, trying to redirect traffic through some sudden heavy snowfall. There's been an accident, so they've had to cordon off a section of the main road, and traffic is being guided through a diversion. There's something magical about snow when it blankets everything. It softens the edges of things. It makes ordinary geographical markers less distinctive. And if the roads haven't been cleared well enough, the boundaries become blurred. You can't quite see the edge of that road. And maybe, if there is a little magic in snow, you might also see things that can't usually be seen. There may be other boundaries that are blurred. A large truck is parked illegally next to the road, along a thin row of trees. The traffic cop narrows her eyes. Leaving her colleague to manage the slow trickle of traffic pushing through the snow, she stomps over to it in her big boots to investigate. As she comes closer, the truck, which she could have sworn a moment ago was plain blue, has a design along the side of it in whirling colours. There's no driver. As she takes a turn around the truck, she notices for the first time in the whiteness behind it, beyond the trees, a circus tent that shivers in the field. Unable to tear her eyes from it, she wades through the snow, knee-deep, to get to it. The snow creaks under each press of her boots. From here, she realises she can't even hear the growl of wheels on the road behind her. "Excuse me," she calls before opening the flap in the tent. Inside, the heat shocks her face. Fires flicker from torches against a dark blue sky. Wait, what? She peers around her, trying to see the other sides of the tent and the top, but there's nothing except sky. Trapeze artists swing from some unseen height. Jugglers in clown suits throw lit torches to each other in twirling patterns. And in the middle of the stage area, a man swallows a sword. Unable to comprehend the lidless tent and the impossible night sky, the traffic cop pushes on by doing her job. "Excuse me," she calls again. "Is that someone's truck parked alongside the road back there?" So could it just be that she interrupts the sword swallower, breaks his concentration in a vital moment in the middle of his practice? Or can you think of another reason why the vexed sword swallower was rendered unconscious by the snow-blasted traffic cop? That's a really mad one. Okay, I think it's time for one last Exquisite Corpse for the day. Okay, I say for the day, but you know I'm making use of the pause button, right? Let's just pick another describing word. If you can get this one off my finger. It is from Robin the Mail Lady. Abundant. Okay. Who or what is abundant? Our noun is from Anonymous. Stockbroker. Oh, that actually works. Well, assuming that you are a successful stockbroker, you're probably abundant financially. Let's grab an action from Judah Mahay. This is weird. Belched with disdain at. I didn't know that was a thing, but maybe it is. It is now. Okay, it really is. Right, let's grab another describing word. This is from Lee. Welcome to the game, Lee. I think this might be your first word. Shiny. Right. And the final word, our noun, is from Paul Thomas. Chapel. Right, okay, so let's put the whole thing together and we have the abundant stockbroker belched with disdain at the shiny chapel. Okay, so I have made good use of the pause button for this particular one, just to work out a starting point, because this is especially bizarre. But what I've decided is belched is making me think of food, and shiny chapel is making me think of a chapel that's built from unusual materials. And these together are drawing me towards the idea of a sequel to Hansel and Gretel. Okay, work with me on this. It will make sense in a moment. So in the original Hansel and Gretel story, did the children, without looking it up, because I haven't looked it up, but did the children get to eat any of the cottage that's made from gingerbread and sweets? I'm thinking probably not in the end bit, because they're running as fast as they can from the witch, who they've just shut in the oven. Such violent, horrific tales we tell children. And by that point, our whole attention has been drawn to the danger of the witch and the need to get out of there as soon as possible. There is no stopping for snacks, people. And I know I by that point will have half forgotten about the fact that the cottage is made from gingerbread and all of that kind of thing. But maybe, and surely they ate some of that magic house right at the beginning when they first discover it, because that's the whole lure of the cottage. That's why they approach it in the first instance. And so in that earlier part of the story, some of that magic went into them. And I'm thinking it's a wishful kind of magic, something that makes your wishes come true. And that Gretel, rather wisely, gained a talent for happiness because what she wanted was happiness. And when she grew up later, she found a career that she loved. She didn't necessarily have a princess-style wedding, nor did she have the best paid job or husband, but they loved each other and were happy. Hansel, on the other hand, while he was stuffing his face with these magical sweets, had his heart set on wealth. And the cottage also had that effect. It made you yearn. It pulled desire out of your very depths and into your fingertips, so that when you reached for a particular sweet sticking out of the wall, whether it was a sticky licorice allsort or a chocolate drop for the doorknob, or even a piece of gingerbread that you snapped off the windowsill, you ate some of your deepest desire, in effect, and it became a part of you, and you gained the ability to get that thing. So this is my theory, that Hansel, having yearned for wealth, he grows up and becomes a successful stockbroker, an abundant stockbroker, according to our Exquisite Corpse. But the cottage that he and his sister came across in their childhood was not the only sweet and magical building he is to encounter. This chapel, shiny not with paint but with the glaze of an iced pastry, I'm thinking this can't be an ordinary chapel in any way. To be that outlandish and yet not stand out quite so ridiculously, I think it has to be a chapel in Las Vegas, where people get married in a hurry, possibly a drunken hurry. Perhaps it is a chapel dedicated to Elvis. And I imagine in Las Vegas, it may not be the only chapel dedicated to Elvis. And here is Hansel, dressed up in his best Elvis gear, staggering a little. This trip to Las Vegas is his extended stag night. But for a joke, his friends have dragged him up here, decked up like Elvis, telling him that he needs to rehearse the big day in the silliest manner possible. And maybe one of them has dressed up in white for an extra bit of fun. And through the haze of alcohol and laughter, there is a part of Hansel that beats a warning about this, just a little warning, because he doesn't want to accidentally wake up in a real marriage with one of his friends. If that might happen, it would make a funny story afterwards for sure, which is probably what his friends are thinking of, but it would definitely create some additional legal paperwork to sort out, to annul it, before he can get on with marrying his actual fiancée. Now, according to this Exquisite Corpse, when he sees the sticky sweet chapel, he belches with disdain. Not just with beer, but with disdain. Not just with the pizza he had earlier. No, with disdain. Why would that be? Because that old, deep lurking desire for wealth repeats on him. The memory returns like a kind of acid reflux, a bittersweet nostalgia rising from the depths of him about that strange encounter in the woods with his sister, something they never could quite work out afterwards, whether or not it was a dream. Even if it was a nightmare, just a nightmare, coldness flashes through him, unsettling his stomach at the sight of this odd-looking chapel that seems to be covered in icing. He shoves down his fear under the guise of disdain, of ridicule of this bizarre place in front of his mates. Come on, his friends urge him forward. You can't get married without a bit of practice. What would Elvis say? Hansel has no idea what Elvis would say, or if Elvis would care if he was really standing there right now. But seeing a beautiful woman standing there outside the chapel doors at the top of the steps with long flowing black hair and a white satin dress, he stalls. Steady on, Han, you look like you've seen a ghost. That woman. What woman? That's Elvis, mate, the real deal. Elvis? Yes, this is an Elvis-themed chapel, come on. I don't see any Elvis impersonators. There's just that woman in a dress. His friends are half collapsing with laughter at this, repeating snatches of what he's just said. But Hansel suddenly feels sharper, less drunk than he did a moment ago. Ahead of them, he walks up the steps. Hello, young man. Apple-cheeked, eyes the colour of cinnamon, she smiles at him. A sweet perfume sends a wave of delight through Hansel, right down to his toes, with just a tinge of nostalgia. An echo of a desire so strong, a childhood wish for more, for wealth, and at the same time, for candy, tingles in his fingertips. He blinks, confused by this peculiar whirl of emotions. He follows her into the chapel. The door swings shut behind them. The walls glisten bright white, so her dress almost seems to disappear, to melt into all the glowing whiteness all around. And yet, is that icing? Magic isn't just for kids, he's about to find out. And whenever you come across magic, there are risks. Caution is the best way to approach these things, if you are brave enough or foolish enough to approach these things at all. But what exactly is the danger here? I have this weird idea that this time he's really trapped, and something happens, like the chapel lifts from the ground as if in a whirlwind and starts spinning through the air. She's stealing him away to another world, and it's the witch in disguise who actually survived being thrown in the oven. Or it's the original witch's daughter, come for her revenge. There's so much you can do with fairy tale retellings, especially if you have an exquisite corpse to inspire you and guide the story into a whole new direction. So what have we had today? A witty psychopath who collects pictures of people, possibly even collects people, and even has imaginary conversations with those pictures. But is this person really a psychopath, or have they been set up to cover up the tracks of the real serial killer? Then we have a very strange encounter for a snow-blasted traffic cop who finds herself in a circus tent that isn't a tent at all. What happens between her and the sword swallower? Now that she's stepped over the threshold into this new world, is there any way back for her? And finally, an abundant stockbroker belches with disdain at a shiny chapel. A sickly sweet trap for Hansel, who's about to learn that the magic he and his sister experienced as children is no longer just a dreamlike memory. I hope this show has given your imagination plenty to play with, and that it's also given you a colourful break from your return to your normal routines. On that note, I say to you, go forth and be inspired. I hope you enjoyed today's brainstorming. You can find out more about Exquisite Corpse and my series, The Book of Exquisite Corpse, at annatizard.com. Subscribe to my e-newsletter and you'll get Volume 1 for free. And while you're there, why not submit a few words to the Socks of Destiny on my play page? You may inspire me or inspire yourself to write a unique new story. See you next time.